I have this nasty habit of thinking that I need to work really hard for my money. And in fact, it gets nastier because I think that the harder I work, the more money I will make. So that means that I need to work longer hours, do more things, and stress myself that out just to provide for myself and my family and to live the life that I want. And today I'm here to make my confession to you. These are my confessions that I'm an overworkaholic. That's one of my confessions, that I'm also here to bring you and I a guest named Amy Kemp, who will help us, you and I, think and learn different habits about the way that we can and should be interacting with work and the world. Amy Kemp is the owner and CEO of Amy Kemp Inc. In her work within this growing company, Amy helps leaders and business professionals understand how deeply thought habits impact every part of their work and life. Habits and thoughts like, I have to work hard for everything I have. As a certified habit finder coach, Amy has led over 400 female business leaders through a 4-month small group engagement called Encounter. This experience is designed to help clients replace subconscious thought habits that are no longer serving them with healthy ones. Amy is also an author. Her book, I See You, a guide for women to make more, have more, and be more without more work, came out February 2024. And she's created an opportunity through that book for everyone to learn and engage with her and the principles that guide her coaching. You can pick up that book and interact more with Amy at amykemp.com. And you can also listen to her in a few seconds here on the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast, because she is the guest that in this episode is helping me and you bust through some of those limiting habits, tell different stories, and even understand what the story is that we're telling ourselves to begin with so that we can begin to tell a new one. She also helps me very, very, very on time with an issue that I'm having just today. This interview was so on time for me, and I hope it is on time for you. All right, let's go.
Welcome to the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast with Alea Harris. If you're looking for actionable ways to overcome communication and differentiation challenges by sharing radically authentic stories, you are in the right place. Listen in and learn how to stand in the power of your unique narrative to transform your personal life, business, and workplace culture. And now, your host, award-winning international speaker, strategic storytelling consultant, and Japanese whiskey lover, Ruby Coral's mom, Alea Harris.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us on the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And if you are not watching the video of this, Amy is gorgeous. She is wearing her stunning flower top. Summer has happened where Amy is, and something tells me that Amy also brings a little bit of summer with her. So,
I tried to.
You got to, right? I can tell. And I feel like it's just not even trying, it just happens. So,
Yeah.
Amy, I've told the people already, like, your shtick, but in your own words, in a couple of sentences, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Amy Kemp. I am a certified habit finder coach and author and business owner. And what I work with people on is discovering the subconscious habits of thinking that are showing up in your day-to-day life and holding you back from creating what it is that you really most desire. So all of this is happening at a level that you're not aware of. I use an assessment tool and curriculum that does that work with me as my tools. So very fun.
I love that. And so on this podcast, we talk a lot about stories and storytelling because I'm a strategic storytelling consultant. And I often talk about the stories that you're telling yourself and how they shape your reality. But I really love what you're talking about because these are the stories that you're telling yourself that you don't even know you're telling yourself, right? Because it's one thing when you can catch yourself and you say like, I'm so stupid, or I'm no da. And they're like, oh, that's a story that I've been telling myself. That's a habit that I've been in. But it's another thing when you can't even hear it and it's still impacting you. It's the worst. So, Amy, what are some of like the top habits or the top, I guess, limiting beliefs that you run across with the people that you work with that folks are not aware of necessarily, but they are really holding them back?
Can I tell you one of those in a story? Because
Oh my
I
God,
think that
if
would be
you
so
would,
great.
it would just make my whole little day. So
Totally.
you could.
Okay. This story happened about maybe 8.5 years ago. My husband and I went to our financial advisor for the annual meeting to review all of our financial goals. And before we went, we had to fill out this whole form with all of our numbers, but also goals, paying for college for kids. What do you want to create in your life financially, basically? And we walked into the office and sat down. And this financial advisor, her name is Tess. She's a trusted advisor in my life, not just someone that I vaguely know. And she had this stack of papers and she kind of arranged them on her desk. And I remember the air conditioning whirring in the background. And I was sitting on this sort of maroon burlap chair. I remember the outfit I was wearing. And she said, I've reviewed all of your documents and all of your numbers, and you're very organized with your money. You're not overspending. You're not making poor choices. There's only one problem. When I look at your goals and I review what it is that you want to do, including paying for college for 3 kids and retiring at this age and living here and all of the things. And she paused and leaned forward and she said, you're not making enough money. And if I could say the air left the room for me, I don't remember anything else she said the entire meeting. I don't know what happened. I just know that in a period of about 10 minutes, my brain went through and hit on so many of the subconscious habits of thinking that were holding me back. Probably the most compelling of those being, I can't work anymore. There's no more hours in the day. There's no more energy in my body to give emotionally. I am leading an enormous business. I have 3 kids who are really active right now. I can't work more. And as I kept looking around for someone else who could solve this problem, but my husband is a high school administrator. He is very in alignment with his gifting and doing work that he's supposed to do. And the only way he's going to make more is by getting older at this point in his career. And it became very evident that I was the one who could solve the problem. And so,
Oh my God, this story, I'm getting chills. You're going to finish your story, but like, you're telling my whole life. My husband is in academics. I am the one. I had this exact revelation. I'm sitting here like,
so
and
good.
how did you solve that? Because I haven't gotten to the end of my story yet. So I'm sitting here riveted. Please continue.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I had to wrestle with was, if I can't work anymore, if the solution to this problem doesn't involve working more hours because there just are no more that I'm willing to give, what do I have to believe differently? What's the different story I need to tell myself? What do I have to believe differently about who I am and what I bring to the world? Which led to this entire journey of sort of unraveling that just working harder isn't going to get what I really want, which again, eventually led to the writing of my first book, but it is the core fundamental message of most of the work I do as well with women, particularly. We have a lot of narrative around this, that the only way for me to make more is to actually work more hours. And I find it fundamentally flawed, false, actually, and just a story. It's actually just a story. It is not truth. So Yes,
Okay,
that
so
is.
but what did you do? For those people who might be curious about what you did.
Yes.
Not me. I've obviously solved this, but for other people,
Yes. Well, let me
what did
first
you
just
do?
very humbly say I'm still a traveler on the road, right? I'm still journeying on this. But what I would say that I did was first make a decision. I made a very committed decision that I wasn't retreating and changing the goals. I had absolutely no idea how I was going to solve the problem. And I would say to anyone out there who finds themselves in a similar situation, go easy on the how. Go easy. Like the how, when you're ready, tends to show up. When you are seeking it like a bloodhound on a path, on a hunt, it tends to flee from you. It can sense your neediness. And so if you can relax into the
Yes.
how and let it come to you. Uh,
It's so funny because I've seen that so many times, and it's like I will see the house start to come to me, and then I'll obsess about it, and then I'll see it leave. And like, oh, bye bye. I'm like, oh my God. And then the only person I have to blame is myself. Because I know that I did that. I know I was the reason why I was so close and now I am so far. So, that is so, so insightful. What else did you do?
So then
Just curious.
I also start invested in myself because I think at the moment where you have a choice of whether you're going to retreat from the goal or continue forward, maybe in a new iteration of yourself, you've got to bring someone alongside you. So that came in the form of multiple people, mentors, coaches along the way. But one pivotal moment that I will tell you happened is that I just happened to be in Salt Lake City speaking at an event, and a coach that I had worked with about 5 years prior, who had done some very important work with me that had really resulted in huge growth in my business at that time. I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in town." He's like, "I'll pick you up. Let's go to dinner." So we went to dinner. I kind of told him what was going on. I had also started to have all of these conversations. So after you've made the decision, pay attention for the things that are just showing up seemingly out of the blue. And for me, that was many conversations, particularly with women I knew who were saying, "I'm isolated. I'm exhausted. I'm ambitious. I'm excited about making more money or impact or having more influence, but I'm running against these same barriers, or I'm having this same life experience." And so I told him I've been having all of these conversations and I have this compelling feeling that I'm supposed to get these women together for some reason, because I know that if I got them together, magic could happen. There would be community formed and there would be like a crossing of their energy and they could feel supported. And he said to me, this was on a Thursday night, and he said, "Well, we're starting training for new habit finder coaches on Monday. Maybe." And when I tell you that I had never thought about being a coach, I had never thought about being, I loved the habit finder material. I mean, I just had never thought of it until that moment, nor could I have ever orchestrated it, nor could I have strategized it or figured it out. It just landed. And when it landed, I knew it was the thing. And so I went home, talked it over with Ryan. He said, "Every time we've invested in you, it's been worth it." I said yes, started the training, and actually started my first 2 coaching groups less than 6 weeks later. But I will tell you, I never thought, even then, I was starting a business. I just thought, I don't even know what I thought. I just thought, I'm going to take the next step, right? I'm going to take the next millimeter step and be faithful to seeing it through. So there's a lot in there, but that was kind of the process and the story.
I love that. I love the process. I love the story. I love how you followed the leading of the little clues. And this is your origin story, right? And your origin story was you were true to yourself, and bada boom, 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 look what happened. You're helping other people do the thing that you need to do. So when you started this journey, were you working in corporate or were you already an entrepreneur?
I was already an entrepreneur. I had built, I was actually leading the number one sales team in a very large direct selling company. So I was leading about 1,000 women across the United States.
Wow.
We had just climbed kind of to the top of the mountain. We were number one literally in the entire nation. And so when I say to you, I mean, there was something deeper there about I'm not making enough money also that was difficult because it was very public. And so uh, I needed to walk through a transition of some sort and I needed to wrestle with that a little bit privately. It was something that needed to happen behind the scenes. I also would say that along with that came some important boundary setting that was really more related to my goals and the way I was working and what I was giving away for free. Oh gosh, this just showed up for me again. And it's like, do you ever just feel like, again, I have to learn this lesson?
Oh, all the time, all the time. And when I work with people, I say it's not like you learn a lesson and it's like a bubble that you pop and it's done. It's more like an onion and you peel off that layer. And then there's another one that will most likely come back. But the beauty of peeling the layers is that through the art of peeling, you become more refined yourself and closer to your more authentic self. No, but that doesn't make it suck any less. But
I know. But the pattern of mine is overworking on things that don't pay me what I'm worth. And I think it's a survival mechanism that I learned through being in sales, right? Like when money was short, I learned to hustle. And so I'm having to unlearn that slowly. I actually had dinner with a friend last night and she said it this way. She said, "Oh yeah, she just shows up in a different dress, those habits." Like she changes her outfit and sneaks in right by you.
she's sneaky. She is sneaky. Oh, she's sneaky. I totally see that. I totally see that. When she shows up in a different dress for you, and I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Does it feel like, and you have to deal with her all over again, does it feel like a moment of failure for you? Or does it feel like a moment of pivot for you? Or something else?
Question. Definitely not failure anymore. Uh, Sometimes I kind of feel like, really? Again? It's more of that sort of a feeling of awareness. Yeah. But I will say what happens, and this happens a lot in the work I do too. Yes, you keep re-encountering it. However, if you pay attention, you actually start to re-encounter it. It's more time in between the encounters. So maybe at first when you're changing a habit at the beginning, it was once a week or once a day even. But now like this situation where I had the realization that I was giving myself away for too little or focusing on things that were underpaying me, putting too much, I am in control of it. I put the energy into the thing that doesn't pay me what I'm worth, right? So that hasn't happened for probably 6 months. But before that, it was happening once a day. And so I do mark it as progress when it shows up because I can see, oh, it's been longer since I've seen her show up again, right? And that's important to note that it's a long process of changing habits. And I think anyone who engages in this kind of work, if you aren't humble from the start, knowing that this journey never ends, this is not a fixing, this is an ongoing relational journey with ourselves that we're on, you will be disappointed if you have any other expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because you mentioned basically rewarding yourself for your own progress, right? Giving yourself a pat on your back and saying, oh no, we were doing this differently. Good job. What are some of the other tools that people can use to change their behaviors and their habits? I guess habits is what we're talking about. After they're aware of them, I guess, which is step one is, oh, I'm super aware that I am investing my time in things that are really not worth me, or I am super aware that I constantly undervalue my pricing because of my limiting beliefs or whatever the thing is. How do you then go about what's not doing that anymore?
Right, right. Oh, I think awareness is huge. Even just the awareness, I was able to shift as soon as I had language for it. a- As soon as I described it, even at dinner with a friend, right? I immediately was able to make some very concrete behavioral changes even today, right this morning, on what I was prioritizing in my day, what went on my 6 most important things list for the day. I just think there's a real agency, a real taking your power back when you can say, there it is. That's half of it. There was a really great movie that came out. It was an Academy Award winning movie called Women Talking a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. It's brilliant and worthy of watching, especially just thinking through the experience of women. But one of the things that in the movie they say is we had no language for our bodies. And so we couldn't have agency or power because we couldn't describe what was happening to us. And so I think there's something there in language. And it's not just language, it's being able to accurately describe what's happening that really gives us the opportunity to change. So some of it is just the language of the work I do is like, oh, there it is again. I'm operating in obligation, or there it is again. I went to fantasy instead of just being where my feet are and taking the next millimeter step. Oh, there it is. I'm catastrophizing, or I'm going to worst case scenarios when, so some of it is just that language and that shared experience that allows us to shift. Yeah.
Do you find that there are certain situations or people that, we'll just say, limit the progress on your habit breaking journey? And
Oh.
what do you do when you come across those?
Oh, absolutely. People, situations, circumstances. Sometimes I think because this is relational work, it's also boundary work. So I hope also we don't get tired of talking about boundaries ever. Because it's getting to be a bit like we're talking about them a lot more as of late. I'm noticing just culture.
Yeah, I would agree. Hmm.
I just hope we don't run out of steam on it because boundary setting is a daily practice. We set boundaries in every relationship that we have. And so, in order to make progress, we've got to protect space for creation. And that can be definitely inhibited by relationships or unasked for feedback or just absolutely being in circumstances that we need to get ourselves out of. I want to actually talk for a second too about boundary setting as it pertains to goals. So I think this is very important for women and something I've shifted, which is n- before I might go to a big event or something and be really energized and excited and set some very big goals because I have big vision and big ambition. But I would forget in an environment where I was away from my day-to-day life that I also am committed to creating a healthy family. I'm committed to creating a healthy marriage. I'm committed to these community volunteer things that I've said yes to. And so I've got to take those things into account in setting goals. So for an example, uh, I see a lot of people say like, I'm going to increase my income by $10,000, but there's no boundary on it, right? So instead, can we say, I would like to increase my monthly income by $10,000 while taking every Friday off to visit my grandma in assisted living, while making sure that I'm done with work every day by 3:30 so I can pick my kids up from childcare or school. My personal goal is to work like a teacher. That was actually my first professional career. So 8 to 3, summers very light, breaks when my kids have breaks and my husband has breaks, work like a teacher and get paid like a CEO. So every decision I make gets run through that filter, and it has a boundary on it, right? It's not just get paid like a CEO, because then I go crazy overworking. But this gets tested all the time. And I share this story in the book, but there was a woman I talked to. Oh, she was my person, like my people, right? I I mean, everything about her was in alignment with the work I do, and she was ready for it. And so we got done and she said, "I'm ready to go. This is a yes for me." And I said, "Great. Let's schedule your first session." And she said, "Oh, I can only meet in the evenings." And I was like, "Oh, this is so hard." And I just said, "I'm going to need to I'm going to need to sleep on it," which is a tactic I've developed to protect myself from my easy yes. "I'm going to need to sleep on it and I'll get back with you because I don't work in the evenings." And so I called her back the next day and I said, "I'm so sorry, but unless you can make lunch work or sometime between 8 and 3, I'm not going to be able to do this work." And I just had to let it go. It was a lot of money. It was my person. I knew I could serve her. That's the real work of boundary setting. There's like a grieving also, because it's like, oh, it's just this, it's tested all the time. But had I said yes, I'm out of alignment with every part of the work I do. And I'm out of integrity. And then I don't attract my ideal client because they don't want to be overworked like everyone else. They want a different life. So
Yeah,
that's
for
a long
sure.
story, but
No, it was
very,
a great story.
mm,
It was interesting to me too, because a lot of the times people listening to this, our dear listeners, are faced with the same decision that you are faced with, and they would have chosen the money as a short-sighted decision, choosing the money right now and accidentally sacrificing the easy money that would come later, right?
not
And
taking into account the price you pay in your integrity, in your
mhm,
energy, just in your own creative process. Yes. But that's boundary work, right?
that's
That's the
boundary work. And that's
boundary.
why we should never get tired of talking about boundaries. And I mean, you've mentioned your book several times. I just want to make sure that people have heard that the book, again, is called "I See You, A Guide for Women to Make More, Have More, and Be More Without More Work." And you can get it on Amy's website, amykemp.com/book. Order now, order now. Um, Amy, I really appreciate you taking us on our journey. You've given us some tips that we can live in our own lives. And by we, I mostly mean me. So thank you.
Mm, you're
I'm so
welcome.
glad that my dear listeners got a lot out of this conversation and your storytelling. However, I am benefited immensely as well. I'm actually in the middle of, I pulled up the free worksheet download. I have it up right now to see what I can do to get my
Mhm.
habits in order. But I have one final question for you. You talk about really being very exemplary and building boundaries and creating a life that you want and communicating well your priorities. And all of that for me is you creating moment by moment, or as you said, baby step by baby step, the life that you want, and then also what you want to be known for. So if you could wrap everything up, the life that you're leading, what story do you want people to tell about you when you are gone?
Mm. I'm going to, I received this recently, and it is the story. So my son, who's 18, ended up in the hospital after a surgery with a staph infection. It was wild and unexpected. And so I was in the hospital with him for 5 days. And by the fifth day, I was feeling nervous and anxious about being away from my work for that amount of time. And just in my quiet, like morning reflection time, I heard the words, "Get higher, get higher above this circumstance." And what I realized as I kind of got myself higher and looked down is that I'm creating a business. Yes. I love to grow businesses, by the way. I find it to be exceptionally fun. Like it's so wildly fun to me. And yes, that's part of what I'm creating, but I'm also creating kids and family. I'm modeling that when someone is sick, like you take care of them. You stop and you take care of them. I'm creating investments in my community in things and causes that I find to be vitally important, particularly education, women, lots of different topics around women. I mean, I'm creating the wholeness of this life, not just the work. And that stay in the hospital was not a diversion or off track or where I shouldn't have been. That was actually one of the most important investments in what I was creating and am creating that I could ever make. There was nothing out of alignment with any of those choices. And that's what I want to be remembered for, is that I wasn't just creating the outcome, the money, the work. I was creating life in all of its fullness, in every part of it, and equally committed to that wholeness.
I received that story, and I'm so glad that you told that story now, because I feel like it was just for me. My daughter is only 19 months old. However, she is a 19-month-old ninja. So we have just needed to convert her into a toddler bed early because she was climbing out in the most dangerous way. I was like, that's not even the easiest way. It's just the most dangerous. So like she could hurt herself. So last night was her first night in her big girl bed. But that meant that we had to basically, I was sharing my office and her room were the same, because while she was sleeping there during the day, that was my office. We had to redo everything yesterday. And yesterday was a holiday, and I had blocked everything out I was going to write. And I am currently, at the time of this recording, 40,000 words into my book, and a book has a goal word count of about 55,000. And I'm like, oh my God, I might be able to finish my first draft today. I wrote 0 words yesterday. Mm-hmm. And it was a moment like you're talking about, your son's in the hospital. And I really received that. I did have a little bit of a, no, this is mom life, but I was coming at it from the, well, this is mom life. This is parenting. This is what we do, and hearing your story just now really helped me reframe that. Like, no, this is the point. This is the point of everything. I can take the day and do everything that my daughter needs me to do, that so she is safe and loved and has everything that she needs, and I have everything that I'm creating that life. So I really, really appreciate it. I needed you to tell me that story right now to help me reframe my life. So thank you.
So true. And those voices telling us we should be working, whose are those anyhow?
No, but they're mean. They are
I know.
Amy, I don't like hanging out with them, and they keep following me around.
It's true.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have liked hanging out with you immensely. So you have blessed my life in this podcast recording. So thank you. And I know you've blessed the lives of other people. And if they want to continue hearing from you and working with you, how should they do that? Where can they find you?
I love it. Just my name, amykemp.com, is where you can find out all about my work and, of course, about the book. You also can find the book on Audible. I know a lot of my ideal readers are listeners just because of the stage of life they're in. So it's my voice, so you can hear me reading it as well. And then I love a follow on social media. I'm mostly active on Instagram and Facebook under Amy Kemp Inc. That's where you can just follow along with all of the teaching I do and just kind of the journey I'm on as I am walking this beside you. I feel like I'm a fellow traveler in the work I'm doing. So
I love that. Thank you, Amy, for being here, for illuminating my life, and I'm sure the life of everyone that is hearing the sound of your voice right now. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
After speaking with Amy, I feel so much better. I feel more aligned. I feel like the possibility of doing something different is in front of my face, as opposed to before where it was kind of like gnawing at me in the back of my head and I was ignoring it as I just worked harder. I'm so glad that we got to talk with Amy today, and she could paint for us another way of going about life, about looking about life and business in a much more holistic fashion. Yay, Amy. Thank you, Amy. I love how Amy says progress isn't just about more work, it's about changing and growing eternally and internally. And I love that she said that because I 100% agree with her. And I hope that is your experience of Amy here on this podcast. If you like this episode and any other episode, be sure to like and subscribe. And you can also email me directly, aleya@aleyaharris.com, aleyaharris.com, to let me know what you think, to maybe be another guest on the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast, as well as request content. I don't know if you know this, but some of the episodes have been requested from you, our dear listeners, of the things or the types of people that you want to speak with. So keep requesting, keep asking, and I love, love, love to hear from you. All right, until next time, this is the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast. My name is Aleya Harris, and I'm sending you lots and lots and lots of love, light, and abundance. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast with Aleya Harris. Vibing with what you hear? Leave a 5-star review to spread the love, and be sure to click subscribe. We wish you love, light, and abundance. See you next time.